All right, good morning, everyone. We're going to get started. All right. U.S. markets actually managed to hang in there yesterday. You can see there we tested flat line sort of toward the middle of the session, but we managed to have a decent day of trading after yesterday's sell-off, which I think kind of raised got the nerves up a little bit. What was really interesting is the move that we saw during the U.S. session and the euro. We saw the euro rip about 150 basis points on the day, kind of right in the middle of the session, and I think that really kind of gave the U.S. a little bit of a shot in the arm after that. I think that Draghi, through some of the comments that he made, just managed to settle a little bit of nerves, and once the states adjusted to it, they kind of started to price it in. But anyway, long story short, if you look at the currency market again today, you wouldn't even have noticed that we had any bumps in the road in the last day or two in trading. So I think it's really important to note that. U.S. Initial jobless claims as well. They missed expectations yesterday. They blamed it on the Easter holiday and spring break. Not sure, how much that's factored in, but one thing I will say is that for some of the stuff I was reading overnight, there's some whispers that we're going to get a bad jobs number, quite a bad non-farm payrolls number today, but it's also going to be due to certain adjustments and things like that. So I think you have to understand that the expectations may be a bit tempered from what Bloomberg estimates have been for quite some time. All right, huge rally out of Japan overnight after yesterday's stimulus announcement. We saw the total opposite direction out of Hong Kong, which I think fell over 2%. And you can see there in Japan, pretty much all the sectors rose. I think what's really interesting is if you look in depth into what Japan's doing, you're looking at them literally nearly doubling the currency, the amount of currency in issue in 2 years' time. Through all the asset purchases that they're going to be doing. So that is incredibly bold, I think. Their stimulus program is basically very close to the same size of the U.S. with an economy that's less than a third of the size. So, these are just unprecedented actions that we've never seen before. I'm a little bit surprised, after really understanding the full scale of it, that we haven't gotten a little bit of a bounce in the gold price. But nevertheless, I think it's something to pay attention to going forward. Okay, we got a couple stocks going to ex-div on over the weekend. That's Exaro and Sasol. Sasol's paying $5.70 and Exaro $1.50. The company spokesperson told the Wall Street Journal that Sasol is seeking a buyer for its Papua New Guinea gas assets. And then Exaro was cut to equal weight from overweight at Morgan Stanley. And I think that Anglo's was raised to neutral versus sell at, I think it's Credit Suisse. All right, so let's have a look at the data here. We had a Chinese public holiday today. We've got house prices in the UK later, retail sales out of the Eurozone. We've got factory orders out of Germany. We've got trade balance, non-farm payrolls, and unemployment rate out of the U.S. later. Obviously, non-farm payrolls is the one to focus on. We just talked about what had happened previously, or what happened yesterday on jobless claims, and we're probably expecting a little bit lighter number than this. I think it's also really important to note is that the ADP employment numbers were soft earlier in the month. But the revision was about 40,000 better. So keep an eye on that as well when the number breaks. Check for the revision for the previous number or for the previous month. Sometimes that can mean as much as the current month. All right, let's have a look at the maps. All right, first thing I'm going to show is the Aussie. This thing is obviously has fallen a little bit below support on the breakdown. It's really starting to look like a real double top on on the longer-term charts. You can see that obviously yesterday's level that we broke through was a significant level. We've fallen about 1,000 points in 2 out of the last 3 days. Or the last 2 days before today. And I think that we're going to be looking for a target here of about, let's see, 36,500 down to, what was the breakdown here, 34,700. I mean, we could really be looking at a 1,800 point move to the downside from here, which would really set our target somewhere down around here. So there's potentially a lot of meat on the bone if you look at this technically and what this chart says that we're going to do. So something to keep keep in the back of your mind, that we really could have a hell of a long way to fall in the Aussie over the next little while if if this chart stays intact. Okay, Astor I wanted to show. I want to jump back to a 2-year here, and you can really see. I want to take this from basically from where this uptrend really started. Oh, what am I doing? I want to look at the Fibonacci move retracement here from the bottom of this move, and you can see there as of yesterday. I'll actually take this a touch lower, but we're really right at or about to test. The 61% retracement here in Astor, and you can see this the size of this move in such a vicious sell-off since January. So in 3 months, we managed to give back $150 in this stock. What I'll also show quickly is how we, on this breakdown from this range here, and the upside of this pattern, we really the target for the sell-off really comes in at about the same the same size of that move, which comes in very close to 300 Ren. So I think you guys that are looking for dead cat bounces and looking to buy some of these resources, this might not be a bad place to nibble. I'm going to watch this one really closely over the next day or two, and if I feel like the stock starts to turn, I may have a dip into it. It's not the most high probability player out there though. All right. Sassel, I want to show Sassel as well. We basically right here to catch a little bit of support on the trend line, right at trend line support, going back all the way to December. Quite a big level, and obviously we know that they're paying a divvy on Monday, quite a reasonable divvy on Monday. So, if you guys are looking for a place to nibble on Sassel, this is a decent place to have a look at it. But if we give 390, then I think we've got some more downside to come. All right, Goldfields. I wanted to show Goldfields as well, and I'm just going to take it, shorten it up a little bit so we can see this a little bit more clearly. But we talked about Goldfields the other day when it broke through here at 69.50, saying that this thing we set a target at 62.50, and the target was set from the breakdown from essentially, let's do it like that, the top end of this range. It was right at 76 Rand, down to 69.50. It should give us a target of around 7 Rand to the downside, and when we broke with this was 69.50. So yesterday we basically traded exactly to that number. If you look at the downside on this wick, you can see it there in the top left corner, 62.62, which 62.50 was our target. So we really traded right at our target, right down here, and then we reversed. Reasonably in our session, but we had a hard reversal in the U.S. It's not just here, also on Anglo Gold as well, and Harmony. They all had reversals. Anglo Gold didn't quite hit our target. I think it traded down to 197, and our target there was 190. But I think it's important to note that we kind of hit our targets. Technically we probably should have a nice solid bounce, and we may even come up and test 160 or test the 69.50 level in the short term on Goldfields. And I think considering that if you were to bundle this back with Sabonier, this thing's given over 30% in the past in the past month and a half, which is pretty significant. So something to keep an eye on. We could have a big couple day rally in the gold price. All right, Amplats. Let me just get the full chart in here. Amplats, we talked about this level approaching and closing basis. Broke it yesterday. We're looking at new multi-year lows. And Amplats, I'll actually take a sec to a 5-year daily. This level was actually more significant than we give it credit for, because we really spent a couple days kind of under there, maybe 2-3 days under there back in November of last year. Now we've broken that to the downside. You take this range, this share, you can put a target on this thing of under $300 in terms of the technical break to the downside. So if you can get some script to short Amplats today, it might not be a bad idea. Mr. Price, we know how significant this level at 116 is. We've talked about it several times. We narrowly gave it yesterday. We closed it at 115.82, Mr. Price, but we did close below support there nonetheless. What's interesting is as well, we kind of we are flagging down to this level, and when you really look at it in a longer term pattern, it's not a bearish chart in terms of long term, but I think this really clarifies how big this level is, and we've gotten below it and just couldn't push below it. But if we actually give this level for a couple days, then things could get a little bit messy here. So watch this level. If we break to the upside of this flag pattern, I think it's really a nice signal to enter. But if we can't get back above 116 next day or two, it could be rough. The one thing I'll also mention is that I'm not sure if it's at 114 or if it's 115. There's a company buyback for 100 million rand worth of stock. So I think there will be some support there definitely. So I don't see the bottom falling out. I just wanted to kind of point the level out, let you have you aware of what's going on there. All right, ABSA also going to show on a 1 year. Kev, I think you owe the boys a little something from this one. Right here at about 148. We looking like we could test today. I think it's a great level to potentially have a little bit of a nibble on. It actually wouldn't be fully completing the head and shoulder pattern, which would take us even lower, possibly even down to below 140, which is a hell of a long ways away from there. I'm not saying it's going to get there. I think this is a decent level to have a nibble at 148. This is where we made our breakout from. I like the support play here. I'll probably look to have a nibble if I can get some today around 148 in ABSA. Okay, and then the last one I'm going to show here is Glencore on the LSE, which has essentially kind of made another breakdown below support here. You can see we've really broken to the downside as of a couple days ago, and we've started to break trendline support. I think that we could start to see even more further downside here. And some of these miners, unless something comes in to save the day for them, because you've got shares like Anglo's that are making all-time or new lows all the way back to 2008, 2 days in a row. You've got shares like Glencore that are breaking down like this. These things are still negative. Even though we had a lot of really good trade action out of some of the stocks yesterday, they're still not managing to get the closes, which is what's the most important. And that's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot.